Have you ever complied with effective immediately and walked out on the spot? For almost a year, I worked dispatch and transport planning for a steel reinforcement company. My job was simple on paper but messy in practice. Schedule trucks, plan delivery runs, talk to customers, manage delays, and make sure everyone got their steel when they needed it. I handled priorities based on service level. Premium accounts first, then standard accounts, then one-off customers unless they paid for the premium option. When my supervisor left months earlier, the company refused to replace him. Instead, they pushed most of his work onto me and brought in someone from another state to do only the soft parts of the job, like calling customers about future dates. The real work, planning, scheduling, manifests, courier bookings, and keeping everything running, was still mine. That week, she was on leave, so I was doing everything alone. By Friday afternoon, I was worn down, but ready for the weekend. I had only 90 minutes left when a cash sale customer, let's call him John, called with a last-minute demand. He wanted 23 tons of reinforcing steel delivered 80 kilometers away by 7 a.m. Monday on 2 rigid crane trucks because his site couldn't take a semi. His original booking was for Tuesday afternoon on a semi, and they had a crane on site. Now suddenly everything had changed. I told him there was no way I could pull that off. Production was fully booked. The steel wasn't made yet. The crane trucks were already assigned, and our drivers start at 6, which means they still need time to check loads, secure everything, and get safety cleared before leaving. He immediately started arguing, insisting he needed it or he'd fall behind. I repeated calmly that it wasn't possible. At best, I could try for Tuesday morning with half the load, but only if a driver agreed to start early. That wasn't good enough for him. He snapped, telling me he'd paid good money and expected the impossible. I explained that he was asking me to reshuffle confirmed bookings, delay other customers, call outside hire companies, beg production to work overtime, and find drivers willing to start early on a Friday afternoon. He didn't care. Instead, he complained that last week he ordered some stock and got it in 3 hours. I asked who he spoke to. He said Dave, who worked at a completely different site, the one that keeps stock on hand and is only 20 minutes from him. All they did was put stock on a truck already going that direction. When I pointed that out, he hung up. I assumed that was the end of it. 10 minutes later, I got called to the big boss's office. The sales manager was already there looking annoyed. The first thing they accused me of was refusing a customer his delivery. Then the sales manager claimed the customer told him I was rude and offensive. I explained the timeline and that the job was impossible. I also said I wasn't rude. If he took offense to the facts, that was on him. But the sales manager didn't want logic. He wanted the sale. He said, that's not a reason we can't do the delivery. At this point, my patience was gone. I explained again. Production was full. The steel wasn't made. All crane trucks were booked. Outside hire was impossible this late on a Friday, and drivers already had mandatory schedules. Still, the sales manager pushed. The big boss finally said, this could be a new account customer. You will find a way to get this done, or you will find another job. Effective immediately. I paused for a moment. Then I said, well, looks like I'm finding another job. I walked out, went back to my desk, deleted my personal spreadsheets and notes, shut down my computer, grabbed my things, and headed toward the door. One of the maintenance guys asked what happened. I told him exactly what was said and that I was leaving effective immediately, just as instructed. He pointed out that none of Monday's manifests or courier bookings had been done. I said, I'm only doing what they told me. The phone rang. First the sales manager, then the big boss. I didn't answer. As far as I was concerned, I was no longer employed. Then my mobile rang. It was the big boss calling from his personal number. He asked why I didn't answer the desk phone. I replied, because effective immediately means I no longer work there. I'm not required to answer a phone for a desk I'm no longer assigned to. I also reminded him that someone else would need to prepare all the Monday paperwork and that good luck getting 2 crane trucks to Clyde North by 7 a.m. Monday. I hung up, walked to my car, and said goodbye to the coworkers I actually liked. The boss and sales manager followed me outside, insisting I finish out the day. I smiled and said, I'm simply following the instructions you gave me. Effective immediately. Then I left. They later had to pay a huge amount to a competitor to move other jobs around and make room for John's last-minute request, and even then, they barely pulled it off. My payout covered a few months of bills, and I finally had the time to run my martial arts classes full-time.